What's up, everybody? It is Thursday. It's not Tuesday, but I figured I could still use this same type of setup for a live stream here. We are post Darlington. We are pre Bristol. It's going to be a fun weekend at Bristol. I'm looking forward to it. We got trucks on Friday. We got Xfinity on Saturday, Cup on Sunday, and anytime we can go to Bristol and have a vast selection of races, that is just something that excites me. So I hope everybody is doing well. Hope everybody's hanging out, having a wonderful Thursday, has had a wonderful week. If you can, make sure to tune into the racing this weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun. So we have myself here today to talk about, just for a little bit, debrief some Darlington, preview some Bristol, as well as my great buddy here, Chris Gollin, the editor-in-chief at motorstardom.com, and a man of many other talents as well as it says on there, his musical talents. Chris, how you doing?
Good. Did I get this working right?
Yeah, you're dressed for the occasion too.
I just got back from something. I won't bore you with the details, but my god, busy night. I'm just glad I booted the stream up correctly. I wasn't sure if I was gonna be able to do that.
Sometimes it takes some technological workings to make sure things are rumbling, but we're glad to have you. It's been since the start of the season. Well, it's technically been since Daytona since we've done one of these for the public audience. Obviously, it's been a season so far that has had some good storylines up and down. We have seen Christopher Bell. Oh man, there he goes. Well, anyways, as I'm saying, we've seen Christopher Bell go for 3 wins this season. We've seen William Byron also collect checkered flag. We've seen Denny Hamlin collect multiple checkered flags now, to where it has been a very intriguing season to kind of see who's going to be our championship favorites. Very early to tell, but there's still enough time to be able to depict. So Chris will be back. He has to take a phone call. But for the time being, let's kind of recap what happened this weekend at Darlington. You may have seen it. If you didn't see the race, you probably heard of it. 243 opening laps were led by William Byron at Darlington for the Goodyear 400. Obviously, that is the most laps consecutively led in a race by Jeff Burton, or since Jeff Burton in 2000, when he led the entire race and won that event. William Byron was unable to do so, unfortunately. Sometimes the cautions kind of fall your way. The cautions fell his way for a while until they did not. Until the caution did not come out, green flag pit stops had to go through. And unfortunately, he lost the lead and lost the win. They had control of the race and then lost it on pit road, was unable to get back through the pack. Was unable to catch up to the guys up front, Tyler Reddick, and ultimately as well, Ryan Blaney, who skyrocketed through the field, took the lead. But we talk about this Ryan Blaney, Tyler Reddick, William Byron. None of them won the race because it was Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin was able to play the cards correctly, really his pit crew was, get an unbelievable pit stop there in the final stop, get them to the front. And boy, if there's anything we know about this next-gen race cars, if you get control in that restart, you probably have control of the race and have control of the win. So Denny Hamlin, a guy that was still up there, right? It wasn't, a total backmarker car, right? He was up there, qualified top 5, was running top 5, good part of the day, if not top 10. And he's able to put his Sports Clips Toyota in victory lane. So great job there for Denny Hamlin. He gets his 2nd win in a row, obviously won last weekend at Martinsville. Now heads into Bristol at the same race that he was able to win last year with that crazy tire strategy race, crazy tire fall off. He was able to win that race. So now going into where he could get 3 in a row here, just like his teammate C. Bell. So obviously we talk about Hendrick Motorsports being all 4 cars up in the top 10 of the standings. We look at Joe Gibbs Racing, who maybe as a whole aren't doing tremendous, but what we've seen in NASCAR is if you got one driver up there who is doing well, performing very well, or 2, we can say, obviously you can call yourself a champion at the end of the year. So right now, Christopher Bell and Denny Hamlin both solidifying themselves as championship favorites right now. Can we say the same for Hendrick Motorsports? I would say we can. William Byron and Kyle Larson kind of signify themselves as so. As we can kind of look at the standings here as well. As you can see, Chase Elliott quietly in 4th in the regular season standings. Obviously, this is the regular season standings, not what the playoffs look like, but it's so early in the season that we kind of can keep an eye on this to see who's really been performing the best this year. And obviously, this is a compilation of stage points, race points. Joey Logano hasn't had the greatest finishes this year, but they have collected a lot of stage points. Just got his first top 10 of the year just a few weeks ago, sitting ninth in the point standings because of all the stage points they've got. Ryan Blaney obviously hasn't gotten a win yet, but he's been very consistent. P7 for him. And you kind of continue to kind of look around this board here where you have William Byron. He's been the best car all year consistently. Every track, week in, week out, those guys have been good. Leading laps, obviously 243 at Darlington. They were a dominant race car. They're going to be someone to watch this year. Denny Hamlin right there in second. Kind of started off a little rocky this year, now moving his way back up. Obviously, 2 wins in a row going to do that for you, but they've been consistent, fast everywhere. I expect them to be really good this weekend at Bristol. Christopher Bell speaks for itself. 3 wins in a row, almost grabbed himself 4, and possibly could have even won the Daytona 500 if he didn't get wrecked out. They have had a fantastic year, almost as consistent as William Byron. Chase Elliott, a start to the year kind of like he had last year, where he is quietly consistent, quietly making himself up the board. We bring Chris back in here. I'm kind of just recapping everybody here, the point standings. Kind of giving a rundown here. We're on Chase Elliott right now, where he's just had that quietly consistent year. We can go on a spiel of all these guys in the top 10. So, Chris, now that you're back, I'll ask you, who's the most surprising from this top 10 here in the point standings? Like I said, we're looking at the regular season point standings here, always kind of early to look at the playoffs and that. But this really gives you a good idea of who's acquired the most points this year, figuratively and literally. Who surprises you the most in this group?
First of all, I just want to apologize for cutting out there for a little bit.
No worries.
I had a phone call that I absolutely had to take. I hate to dip out with no warning like that, but all's good on that front. These are 10 names who, these are people that you go into the season expecting they're going to be in the mix. So none of them are shocking to me, but the one I think that leaps out as the most surprising, I would say, is Bubba Wallace there in 8th place. Not that I wouldn't have thought he was capable of this. I certainly do think so. But I think just how strong he's running, just how high up in the pack that we're seeing him this season has been, it's been a step up for the 23 team. The issues, whether it's pit road, whether it's Bubba being his own worst enemy that we've seen in years past, have so far not been as pressing as they have been in years past for that team. So, it's certainly, like I said, it's not that I didn't think they were capable of this, but to see them having leveled up like this, I think it's the biggest year-over-year change and the biggest year-over-year improvement out of any of those 10 teams, in my opinion.
Yeah, they've been fantastic. I think their consistency is really what needs to show. Obviously, to not only they want the victory, really is obviously what they want. They want to be consistent, but they also want to add a victory onto that. Because I mean, what point did we get to last year, right? At Darlington, final race of the regular season, they could say they've been somewhat consistent all year long, but I think this year they're off to so much more of a better start. You're sitting there 8th in the point standings. And honestly, I think you look at those summer tracks, and Bubba Wallace has now kind of turned himself into a driver where it seems like, hey, any given week they could be fast. They could be fast. You can say that a lot this in this next gen era, but I like that pick there with Bubba Wallace as well, with him being kind of a sneakily good guy. I'd say surprising for me. I'd have to say Joey Logano just because they're bad finishes, right? It's been a surprising year, I guess. And I'm going to say surprisingly on the downside. Yes, they are 9th in points, but they have been fantastic, obviously, in getting stage points. Just have not had the finishes. But goes to show you what great things stage points can do for you running up there in stage 1 and 2, because I think without them, they would be like, I don't even think they'd be above 15th in the point standings right now. But definitely a very confusing year for them. Alex Bowman slithering right there in the 10th position. He's always quietly consistent. So honestly, the biggest surprise to me is Joey Logano and how kind of mid, I guess is the word you can use, as this season's been. If we want to talk surprisingly bad, Ty Gibbs is off to a struggle this year. They've hit kind of a little mini resurgence. They had some speed at Martinsville. They had a little bit of speed at Darlington as well. But rough year for him. Before you kind of joined back, I was talking about the dynamic of Hendrick and Joe Gibbs Racing, where it's like, Hendrick, you have all 4 cars here in the top 10. To whereas Joe Gibbs Racing, you have two drivers that are championship favorites, 3 wins, Bell, 2 wins, Hamlin, possibly 3 wins if he wins at Bristol this weekend. But then you got drivers like Chase Briscoe on the struggle bus right now. Disappointing run at Darlington, didn't expect that. And then, like I just mentioned, Ty Gibbs. What do you make of Joe Gibbs Racing's efforts this year and kind of how it's really a seesaw organization right now?
Well, number one, I'll say I agree with you on Joey Logano. As in terms of like he's the most surprising one compared to the eye test this year. That's what I
Yes.
was thinking when you were saying that. Like it makes sense that Bubba's in there based on what I've seen of him. But I get where you're coming from of like versus what our eyes have shown us during the season. Joey is surprising. But as for Joe Gibbs Racing, I mean, you kind of nailed it. It's a tale of two teams.
Yeah.
Christopher Bell, 3 straight wins. Denny Hamlin now 2 in a row. These are two guys who are going to be, unless something changes, they're looking like they're going to be someone that anyone is going to have to go through to make a run at the championship. They're both looking as strong as ever. Denny Hamlin has, this is as good of a season as we see from Denny. This is seemingly peak Denny. And Bell seems like he might be having a career year. I mean, I don't know what else you'd call it at this point, other than too early to say. But Bell's off to an incredible start. And then you look at it like Ty Gibbs. It's early, but it's also not that early. Ty Gibbs has taken a massive step back. There's been a little bit of misfortune for that team, but before this past weekend, he was 31st in points. He upped to that 226th, but I mean, they have just not really been too much of a factor. I think Ty has officially been in Cup long enough now where you want to know why that is. You want to know, when are we going to start seeing him getting consistent top fives, consistently competing for the win? And then Chase Briscoe, he gets maybe a little bit more slack from me because he is brand new to Joe Gibbs Racing. He's brand new to Toyota. Everything's new for Chase, and also Chase isn't nearly as low in the points as Ty Gibbs. He's 14th. So I'm much slower to sound any alarms on Chase Briscoe at this point than I am for Ty Gibbs. But I would certainly say if the expectation is that, I mean, like all four of those guys are A-plus talents. All four of those guys on pure talent, to me, feel like they can win a championship. So if the expectation of JGR is for all four of these teams to be racing to their absolute full potential year after year, two of them are meeting the mark, and two, they're going to maybe want to know why these two maybe aren't meeting their full potential as whole race teams.
Yeah, no, I would say the same as well. I mean, obviously, you want to be in the best position you can as a race team, but as you said, it's early. We still got time left in the year, but it's at that point where we've had enough races under our belt where we can evaluate how a team's been doing or a driver's been doing. But at the same time, hey man, it's a long season, and we're gonna see how things can possibly turn around. So obviously, this point standings will shake up every week and continue to shake up as we approach the season. So, going into Bristol, where I think it's going to be a really fun race, this is something that you asked me today, and I kept forgetting about it too, as well, that it was happening so soon. Homestead, we knew the drama that was Homestead. I was there for it, where I watched him win the truck race, and then Xfinity came around the next day, and you know what? I thought he was winning that race too, and then all of a sudden a caution comes out and we get an overtime restart, which we seem to have in Xfinity a lot this year. But he's going to get a second chance at this sweep this weekend at Bristol, and I think that'll be a lot of fun to watch because this is another track just like Homestead where you can kind of put Kyle Larson near the top, which you can at almost any track. But Bristol has certainly been in Kyle Larson's wheelhouse. How do you like his chances getting that three-peat this weekend with Spire and then HMS for those final two races?
At least once, I'm pretty sure of the times that Kyle Busch did it, I know one of his 3 race sweeps was at Bristol.
Yeah.
it might have been more than one. I can't remember where the other one or how many times exactly he did it. But what I take away from that is that there is value in settling into a groove at Bristol. And what I mean by that is you run the truck race and the truck and Xfinity, and it gets you into the rhythm of Bristol. And Bristol is a very rhythmic track in that it's because of how short it is. It's not that every track isn't symmetrical for the most part, but it's there is such a rhythm to entry and exit, and it's you hear that drivers say that it's the repetition of Bristol of these really hard turns, these really steep banking, coming in and out and in and out. And I think that from Kyle Busch doing it, what that tells me is, you when you can get a feel of that, when you can get the muscle memory of running Bristol, I think it pays dividends throughout the rest of the weekend. And yeah, we already saw Kyle Larson at arguably his strongest track, Homestead, Miami. He was very, very close to a sweep. It was one stroke of luck away from happening. So I feel like Bristol, even if it's not quite as high up on his maybe his favorites list as Homestead, although Larson does have the best average finish of all active drivers at Bristol as I look at the table. I don't know if he's quite as good there as he is Homestead, but I think because of that, I see no reason why the sky's the limit for Larson. His chances are going to be really good, and as long as there isn't anything mechanical, as long as he doesn't land on a less than ideal setup in one of these days, you got to go into it thinking it's going to be a real significant chance, and that how close he came at Homestead is going to prove that it wasn't just a fluke.
Yeah, exactly. I'm super excited to. I'm always excited for the Xfinity race at Bristol. I know they have also a big chance to redeem themselves after Martinsville, after what we saw just a few weeks ago. A little bit different of a track. We do see a little bit less chaos at Bristol than we do see at Martinsville. Martinsville has just turned into an absolute dumpster fire for the Xfinity series most of the time. But Bristol usually tends out to be a good race where you have some beaten fenders, but they seem to keep it civil majority of the time at Bristol. I don't know if you remember that amazing finish just a few years ago, which I guess did turn into a demolition derby, but with Austin Cindric, AJ Allmendinger, Justin Allgaier, Riley Herbst were all in that bundle as well. That was a fun time. We're gonna remember that.
Classic.
I mean, we're also gonna remember this one. We can watch over again, but for the wrong reason. Which they did say they talked it over and they're okay now, which I guess, the drama fans didn't want to hear that. We wanted to see this keep going,
They say it. They don't always. I mean, Carl Edwards and Brad Keselowski were fine after Talladega 2009. Then look what happened.
Yeah, that's a good point. It was a melee after that, I guess you could say. But I don't know. I'm looking forward to. I mean, what race do you look forward to most as from a fan's perspective, from a racing enthusiast perspective? Are you looking forward to Next Gen Cup at Bristol, Boo, or are you looking forward to Xfinity? Or trucks. Honestly, I'm biased. I look forward to the Xfinity race, but the truck race is always pretty fun too. It's like a nice little short shootout kind of deal. Cup has the prestige.
Yeah, I think I'm looking forward to Xfinity the most. I believe that I think trucks and Xfinity are both at a point where they're putting on a pretty reliably good show at the short tracks. When I say good show, I mean entertainment, not necessarily good. As Xfinity proved. But I think Cup under Next Gen at the short tracks they're still not comfortable on short tracks yet. But what I mean by that is they're still figuring out the tire wear situation. I believe it was a year ago they had like the ridiculous tire wear race. I want to say Hamlin won that, if I'm not mistaken. But it was they're still trying things, is what I mean. And that's not to say every Cup race in short tracks has been bad in that span. That's far from the truth. But I'm more confident that Xfinity and trucks are going to live up this weekend than I necessarily am with Cup. I don't think it's going to be a snoozer in any of them, but that's my outlook on the weekend is, and especially with the different temperaments across the three series. I'm looking forward to probably Xfinity the most.
Yeah, I would say the same. I think you're just able to do so much with those, so much more with those race cars. And every time Kyle Larson's in the Xfinity Series race, or even the Truck Series race at Homestead, he seems to just put on some really fun battles with the top contenders in that series. I mean, I go back to Kyle Larson with Shane Van Gisbergen at the Chicago Street Course last year. That was a lot of fun to watch. So I think he's going to put on a great show with some of the top contenders. Larson and Allgaier going at it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. We got a comment asking about Jesse Love's Cup debut, which is also one of the cool storylines going into this weekend. Jesse Love will be making his NASCAR Cup Series debut in the number 33 for Richard Childress Racing. This is something that was being developed starting since last year. They were trying to make this happen, trying to figure out when they were going to be able to put him in that race car. They felt the first race is going to be Bristol, and he's going to be able to run a little select races this year, just as Austin Hill does in that race car. I believe a report came out today that Will Brown possibly back in that car as well later on in the year. So the 33 is getting really active for RCR. Just funny because a team that explored a third charter didn't do it, obviously, but nonetheless, really exciting to see Jesse Love now getting his Cup start. Interesting dynamic over there where what's going to happen with Kyle Busch next year. Austin Dillon controls his own destiny. Who will get the Cup spot first? Will it be Austin Hill or will it be Jesse Love? But that's topics for the future. Jesse Love Cup debut this weekend. I'm excited. We'll see how he does. Obviously, he's impressed in his Xfinity Series career. How do you feel about Jesse making his debut this weekend? And what are you thinking for his?
Well, I mean, I think Jesse has raised his stock a lot so far this year in Xfinity. He's shown, we already, I think everyone was pretty high on Jesse coming into the year, but what we've seen so far from Jesse has been quite impressive. Now, given I look at my expectations for him are not high as far as his Cup results. It's his debut. It's the Childress 33 car. No disrespect to that group of guys, but the 33 has not run consistent with the approximate caliber of the drivers that have been put in it when it's been in Cup. So I'm not looking at him to go out here and pull a Shane Van Gisbergen and win a Cup debut. But I think Jesse is definitely a guy that's bound for Cup, and this is going to be a valuable step in gaining that experience. It's the baby steps of getting ready to make the jump to the Cup Series. As far as Austin Hill or him making it, I don't know when Richard Childress Racing plans on going to a third charter, or potentially what the driver lineup looks like in the coming years. I have no reason to think it's not going to be Kyle and Austin for next year and the year after that. But Kyle Busch is a free agent at the end of the year. I'm 99% sure. So they could be not, whether or not Richard Childress has any reason to think Kyle Busch wouldn't be in the 8. There's reason to be preparing multiple guys in his development pipeline for the jump. If it could be in the 8, it could be in a third car. But either way, these are two guys who have a growing resume in Xfinity. They've both proven they can be quite competitive at that level, and they're both looking like guys who can handle Cups. So right now, I think Richard Childress is doing exactly what he needs to do, which is just get them some seat time, get them ready so that when the moment comes, it'll be a smoother and natural transition for either one of them to become a Cup regular.
Yeah, and I think Kyle Busch is an interesting conversation that I'm mixed about it because it's kind of like, yes, his contract's up at the end of the year. He's shown he's had speed, but is there more potential there? Does he feel like there's more in the tank if he goes to a better spot, he can perform better? Because you look at Kyle Busch, and then what do you have to do? When Tyler Reddick was there, what did we do? We looked at Tyler Reddick, we looked at how he's performing. What do we compare that to, right? We compare you to your teammates. What is your teammate doing? Not nearly as good whatsoever in that 3 car. So, is it Austin Dillon, or is he the equipment? Is Kyle Busch performing his equipment? If me personally, I feel like as a NASCAR fan, but also I feel like if I was Kyle Busch, I feel like I would be looking elsewhere at the end of this year. That would be my prediction, that he looks elsewhere. But then you ask yourself the question, what is elsewhere, right? What is open, right? Penske Racing doesn't have anything open. We know Josh Berry's going to be sticking in
You
that.
think Kyle would go to Penske?
No, but I'm just listing off places that would not be open. I mean, Hendrick Motorsports, we know they're set. Um, we know Joe Gibbs Racing obviously is set. 2311, I know that was explored. I feel like that 3rd car is going to go to Corey Heim, and I'm pretty confident in that. Um, I don't think Riley Herbst is going to be there very long. That's a little bridge deal in my opinion. Which, hey, props to him. Got to do what you got to do. Put the money in there. It's a secured ride, hard to find these days, but that ain't gonna be a thing very long. Back in 30th place in the Cup Series,
Yeah.
when your teammates are top 10 in the point standings. Obviously, he's a rookie. We can tread lightly, but you look at Trackhouse has always been named as a possibility. We know Kyle Busch's relationship with Justin Marks. Keep yourself in the Chevy family. What's going to happen with that 99 car? What's going to happen with Daniel Suarez? I think Daniel Suarez would be first one to go over Shane Van Gisbergen, just because of the stock that they've put into SVG. We know Ross Chastain is safe. It's interesting too, because I feel like we just went through a wave where so many drivers got replaced. We've seen multi-year deals. We've seen multi-year deals been voided in the past, right? Corey LaJoy got booted, out of his ride mid-season. I mean, they didn't even wait for the year to end. I mean, they kind of negotiated a trade, right, to where they knew all parties were going to be fine for the rest of the year, but nonetheless, the contract was obviously ripped up. So I'm interested. I think he would want to go somewhere better than where he is, right? So I know there's a comment saying KB to colleague. I don't think colleague's better than Richard Childress Racing. It's pretty much its little brother. So you're basically at the same place, but man, there's so many options. It's got me spinning. Obviously, you see I'm yapping here of where Kyle Busch could go. But me personally, I would love to see him somewhere else than Richard Childress. You open a spot for Austin Hill or Jesse Love to come in full time. I would hope Austin Hill would go to the Cup Series next year. I would ideally like to see that. I think he's ready for it. I don't think another year in Xfinity does him good next year. If he wants to be a Cup Series driver, next year should be the time. But Kyle Busch, I don't know. If I had to pick, I feel like Trackhouse is the most likely option. But 2311 would be fun. Back with Toyota. I mean,
I don't know if this is a hot take, and listen, this is not something I've had conversations within the industry about.
He's going to say Kyle Busch to Hendrick.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm not going to say that. So I'm hesitant because, I'm sure someone who's had these conversations might be able to come on and tell me I'm way off base. But I firmly feel like the most likely landing spot for Kyle Busch in 2026, if not Richard Childress Racing, is a return to Joe Gibbs Racing. I feel very strongly about that. And what I think that would entail is potentially Denny Hamlin racing for his own team. Obviously, that would be unfortunate for Corey Heim because now we're no longer the teams no longer have their sights on 4 cars. So, and you don't want to get rid of either Bubba or Reddick, in my opinion, if you're 2311. But I don't think Kyle Busch's stock has lowered a whole lot, even in a winless year and now a year that's so far still winless. I really think the garage still has faith that Kyle Busch is one of the premier wheelmen in the circuit. I still think that any team with an opening is going to be interested in him. And at the same time, if I'm Gibbs, I don't necessarily want to lose Hamlin because Hamlin has been consistently a title factor year after year. So at the same time, I don't know if even if Kyle's stock hasn't dropped that much, right? Denny has the numbers lately. So there are reasons not to also, which is why, even though I say I think Gibbs is his most likely alternative, I still don't say likely. I say most likely. And I don't want to get into the fate of the 54 car just yet. As far as I know, Ty is going to be back next year. I have no reason to think that he's not, no matter what the results are. But I would say I think Kyle expects more than what he's getting. And I don't know where he's at on what he considers to be the factors that are causing this historic downturn in his career. He certainly, I don't know if he's more mad at himself, or I don't know if he's more mad at the situation that he's in, but we do know that since getting to Childress, Kyle Busch has become less potent week in, week out. And knowing Kyle Busch, he wants nothing less than several wins a year. He expects to be a perennial title threat, and he is not old enough yet that he should be naturally over the hill. I mean, Denny Hamlin's older than Kyle Busch, and look at him. Look at how old Kevin Harvick, Martin Truex were when they were still title threats. So there's no immediate reason to think that Kyle is quote unquote washing up as a driver. So I think with Kyle, it's going to come down to what team, number one, has the opening or will make the opening, because I think a lot of teams would create an opening for Kyle Busch if they could. What team can get a seat for him, and what team can make the case to him that they are poised to put him back to being the title contender that he expects to be. I could absolutely see Trackhouse making that case. And in my opinion, I actually think Shane Van Gisbergen would be higher on the list to leave than Suarez. I think I'm in the minority on that. But I actually have had internal conversations on that, and everything I've heard has indicated that Trackhouse is quite happy with Daniel Suarez. I think a lot of the speculation there has been speculation. Whereas Shane Van Gisbergen, I think we know what he's capable of. Greatness on road courses, on ovals, not much. No offense to him, but he's the fourth worst full-time driver this year. Now, there's a lot of value in someone who can go out and reliably contend for the win at X number of races per year. But at the same time, it's not like Daniel Suarez is impotent at road course. Daniel Suarez has won on a road course, and he is more consistent. So I don't know, in my opinion, that Suarez is the first on the chopping block at Trackhouse. I could be totally off on that. I could be totally off on virtually any of this. But, I could see them. And then, like you said, beyond that, I don't see Colleague. I think Colleague's stock was a lot higher in the first Kyle Busch sweepstakes. I don't see that now. I don't see Aspire swooping in there. I don't see a front row. I really think Kyle needs and wants something. He needs and wants change, but I feel like the options of teams that could actually make that happen for him are limited. So that was an extreme soliloquy there, but that's where I land on Kyle Busch.
No, yeah, I think it's a good point, because I think he is only going to leave RCR if he knows there is a better opportunity for him. Because in my opinion, RCR is right there with some of the teams you just named. If you ran for a Colleague or if you ran for Aspire, there's all teams that can run on the same. They can run 15th to 20th sometimes, but they can also just randomly qualify top 5. We've seen Kyle Busch do it. But we've also looked at Spire. You see Michael McDowell do it. We've seen Carson Hocevar do it. You look at front row, and you've seen Zane Smith and Todd Gilliland, Noah Gragson randomly have good qualifying runs, random good race runs. But in my opinion, there's so many A teams right now, I feel like, or A minus teams right now. He wants to be with that A plus team if he's going to leave. And in my opinion, the A plus teams are Joe Gibbs Racing, Hendrick Motorsports. You can put Penske in there somewhat. I think Joe Gibbs Racing, we can reclassify that. He's with the A minus teams. The A plus teams are Joe Gibbs Racing, Hendrick Motorsports. The A teams, Penske, 2311, because of Bubba and Reddick. Riley
Yeah.
Hurst doesn't count. And then I think, honestly, you go to the A minus and it's just everybody else. The field's so tight now. The teams are so decent to where any given week before practice or qualifying, there's 30 cars, in my opinion. Right now, after we've seen the general performance of everybody to start this year, there's 25 to 30 cars where they could qualify top 5. And I'd be like, oh, well, I mean, Ryan Preece is having a spectacular year in the 60 car. That is a guy who I was like, this is the last chance for Ryan Preece. And it's still that way, in my opinion. Like, either way, it's his last shot, right? It's if he doesn't perform, then it's like probably not getting another cup opportunity. But he's performing. He's finally performing.
He's proven something already.
Yeah. Well, no, that's what I'm saying is this year. That's why at the beginning of the year, I was like, okay, if he shits the bed with RFK and his teammates do super well, that's probably it, right? You had a shot with JTG, Haas. You're getting your best opportunity here. If you don't do well, it's over. But that is not the case, clearly. As of now, we've seen seasons go south really fast, but like he's showing that he is a dog. I mean, top 10. He is performing better than, I'm sorry, as much as it probably hurts to say this, his team owner, who is not off to a good start this year, Brad Keselowski, your guy there, not off to a pretty start, which is very surprising. We talked about this Tuesday on the show when we were kind of talking about surprisingly good, surprisingly bad. Surprisingly bad is that 6 car, not good to start this year. Whereas Chris Buescher and Ryan Preece have been solid. But I think Brad Keselowski is a veteran driver and they have certainly the room to turn on at the end of the year. And hey, this is NASCAR. He could win race 16 and make the playoffs and we'll be all good. So right now, it doesn't matter.
I wouldn't sound the alarm on Brad Keselowski just yet. I mean, he was really, really looking good at Darlington until whatever the hell that was.
Finally.
With that tire.
They were looking really good. They were looking good. That's probably their best race.
But I would have thought the positions that Preece and Keselowski were in at this point would be switched before the start of the season. I did not have a ton of confidence in Ryan Preece coming in. I wasn't super high on him. I felt like I hadn't seen enough at any level really for me to think that he deserved a spot on a race-winning Cup Series team. And he has done nothing but prove me wrong so far. The first race of the year, he went in the air, and it's been all pretty good since that. He has been a very pleasant surprise to start the year. For me, it seems inevitable he's going to get a win. I mean, I don't know how you feel on that, but he's up there in the top 5 and 10 enough where I think it's going to happen at some point here. And I'm a little surprised he wasn't closer at Martinsville, if that being such an amazing track for him. But I mean, I don't off the top of my head know his Bristol numbers, but he's a short track guy.
RFK historically pretty solid at Bristol.
Oh yeah, the whole team.
Remember, obviously, I'm sure hate to keep being the Debbie Downer here, but I'm sure you remember that. What was it, 2022, 2023?
What?
23? Where Brad was leading and then tire dies, but teammate wins, so yippee. When Brad was leading Bristol, Chris Buescher won.
At RFK.
When Buescher got the win.
Yeah, that was 22.
So that
was great. Love it.
A wild end to the race, but good thing that it was an RFK Ford winning the race. Almost like we repaid the favor last year at Darlington, right? Buescher, up there, and then
I think Reddick
Brad K. So yeah, shout out Tyler Reddick for that.
Which the bill came due for him too this year. So
It did. It did. So well, and then he lost himself another Darlington race,
Yep.
unfortunately. But yeah, it's interesting dynamic where everybody is in the Cup Series field, the Cup Series point standings. I mean, we're at a spot where, like, when we just sat here and broke down every organization, um, any given week. I mean, you have that say. There's a saying in the NFL, any given Sunday. I think it's the same now in the NASCAR Cup Series. It's any given Sunday. Now, right now, I feel like it's a little different because now that we're getting further into the next gen era, we're seeing some people separate themselves. I don't think we've seen separation from the field like we've seen this year out of people like William Byron, Christopher Bell. We've usually started off seasons with like, okay, we've had 7 different winners and 7 different races, and what the hell's going on? I don't even know who the best car is. Right now, I know damn well who the best cars are. I know who the big 3 is. It's Byron, Bell, and Denny Hamlin.
Yep.
Those guys are the best. Those are the championship favorites right now. And honestly, it's kind of refreshing, to be honest, because I've kind of gotten tired of all the chaos. I'm not going to lie. In the Cup Series and our Premier
Really?
Series, yeah, I mean, for me, I feel like it, makes me seem like, I don't know what the word they use, a naturalist or I don't know, old people or
Traditionalist?
whatever, traditionalist. Yeah. But I enjoy being able to talk about the big dogs in the series and make those storylines for the people under them to overcome. When every week it's just like there's different winners and different winners and different winners. It's like, well, I go into this weekend. There's no storylines going to the weekend. It's just like, well, freaking Michael McDowell won last weekend. What's that got to do with this weekend? Nothing. I don't know. Like, I don't know who's going to be good going into this weekend. But I feel like as teams have learned more about this next gen race car, the drivers have become accustomed. We see it more as you get more further into a model of race car where we see drivers kind of separate themselves. And it's cool to see William Byron separate himself. He's the guy that took him some time to get really his feet wet, but now kind of adding a little bit more to that 24 car than just Jeff Gordon, right? Back to back Daytona 500 champions. I think that's cool. Christopher Bell is always at some people hated on him. I don't know if you remember that. People didn't like the fact that he was getting that 20 car over Eric Jones, which Eric Jones is a great driver, tremendous driver, great guy, great wheelman. But Christopher Bell is a talent. And I always believed that. And I didn't know what the backlash was when they put Bell in that car. And then, what doesn't perform like the first 3 races of his career. They're like, this guy's a bust. Put Eric Jones back in the car. No, Christopher Bell's a dog. And I'm glad that these kind of are the guys as well that are separating themselves early in the season. Guys that need to make a name for themselves in NASCAR. We need more personality. We need more names out there. This is a way to do it. These are the 2 guys dominating the sport right now, Christopher Bell and William Byron. And besides Kyle Larson in 2021, that was, in my opinion, the last time I felt like somebody dominated a season, like that there was a dominating driver. 2022, no. 23, not really. 24. I mean, you look at the championship winners at the end of the year, it's Penske. Did they dominate the year? Hell no.
Yeah.
Not at all. So it's like that. The same could happen this year, but that was a spiel. But like, I don't know. That's just how I feel. I enjoy that there are some top dogs to start this year, and everybody's chasing them right now. I love the fact that William Byron led 243 laps this weekend. The race wasn't interesting. The broadcast stinks. Doesn't really help. I was watching it on Fox, so it wasn't really amazing. It's hard to get invested. But I enjoy the fact they led 243 laps. That's greatness right there. They whooped everybody's butt,
You
and
know
they
what?
didn't win the race, but
I enjoyed the fact that it happened and
yeah.
then he was fallible at the end. That was actually, that feels like that hasn't happened in a while where someone was
What do you
just
mean fallible? Sorry, I'm young. What does that mean?
What's that?
What does fallible mean? Genuine question.
Fallible. Yes, like fallible, like
Like he fell
vulnerable,
off.
essentially.
Oh yeah.
Like infallible means it's just out of
Well,
reach of anything.
welcome to the next gen car. Track position.
Yeah,
You
but
lose it, you're done. I was worried of that was going to happen, and then it did, unfortunately. But I feel like Yeah, probably same things probably happened 20 years ago before, but
Yeah, like I liked that element where I mean it was not a barn burner of a race. But then the fact that the dominant car actually got to a point in the race where they had to really fight for it, and
yeah,
and they weren't like something went wrong from them and their car wasn't so like OP that they just drove right back through it.
yeah,
That's what I enjoyed about it. And if it's that, fine, great. If it's really the driver that's dominating and putting it on lock, but I feel like there's a difference, and you can know it when you see it between when the driver is just that good, and I think that was the case with Larson in 2021,
yeah,
versus, and I'm not going to name any names, versus when the car is just ridiculous, to where you could put practically anyone in it, and they're going to be top five minimum.
yeah,
Um, the former is exciting, the latter, not so much. And I think it's too early to definitively say that one or the other is going to be the theme for this year. But that was this past Sunday was about the most interesting race that was largely dominated by someone that we've had in some time. And it was, I would have said that before the overtime restart. Just with the way the green flag pit stop shook out at the end with Byron and Blaney and Reddick and all that drama there. It was already the most interesting. Even if Byron had won, it's still just the fact that it came down to something like that.
yeah,
That's to me, that's what makes a race great or not great, is the feeling that that a multitude of drivers have it within their power to make the win happen for
yeah,
them, for themselves. Not like the super low horsepower years where there's like literally nothing you can do. You could put Richard Petty in there and he's not going to be able to do it if they don't have the track position and the car. As if it's when you get the sense the drivers have agency over their own result, that's good racing. And it's good whether it's Michael McDowell or someone crazy winning every week. And it's good if it's, domination.
yeah,
Um, and that's where I think I unite with your point on that. Is I like parody. I love parody. I love unexpected winners. But at the end of the day, racing can be good even if someone's just running
yeah.
the show.
Exactly. And I think it's interesting because, like, the way I look at it, if I'm the 24 team, it's almost like with how bad the next gen car could be in traffic and how much you want to figure it out, it almost would have been better if they would have had that cycle happen 100 laps earlier because, you have that final pit stop and now you're just now figuring out how to pass people, how your car is in traffic,
True.
traffic, not lap traffic that is you are fighting for position. And then you're like, crap, if we came down pit road and made these adjustments, we could figure it out. But we're not pitting again, like, until an overtime restart comes up, obviously, but it's gone by then. So it's so interesting how that played out. But it's almost like, when you get beat in the cycle like that, you're at a disadvantage. And they got put at a disadvantage. And at the end of the day, that's just NASCAR. And it's also NASCAR for a caution to come out and overtime restart to happen, right? Ryan Blaney had that race won, and I know he was pissed, as he usually is. But Denny Hamlin's able to steer that win. But yeah, I think we could see a similar race play out this weekend at Bristol. We haven't seen these Bristol Cup races turn into wreck fest. We saw last year become a tire fest, but not a wreck fest. It was just a weird strategy fest. So we're gonna very interesting to see how it ends up this year, but I think we could end up seeing the same thing where somebody maybe pulls out, dominates the race, but who knows what happens on that green flag cycle. But nonetheless, I'm very excited. We can I want to give our pick certainly for Bristol here. I do want to shout out. I sponsor an iRacing series called the Zascar Motor Stardom Cup Series, and the Motor Stardom sponsored car on the Motor Stardom team won the championship. So, not to absolutely gloat our brand here, but wonderful night. Congratulations to Jason Marshall. Thank you for your services. What were we saying?
The fix is in.
The fix is absolutely in. We rigged the series and we won the championship, so we will be celebrating virtually. Anyways, I digress. Bristol this weekend, very exciting. We have Trucks, Xfinity, and Cup. Every time I go on ESPN Radio, I make 3 picks for the race for Xfinity and Cup. But you know what? We can keep it to 1 and we can do all 3 series. So let's start. Let's look at the Truck series, something we haven't really talked about. Bristol going in. Who do we got? I'm going to give my pick because this is obvious. I think Corey Heim is going to win the race. I honestly think he's not going to let Kyle Larson get the best of him in this race. As much as my second pick would be Kyle Larson. As much as I want to see Larson get the sweep, Corey Heim has lots of aura, and he is not going to let this one slip away. He would have had Homestead if his truck didn't explode on him, basically. I don't think he's going to let this one slip away. I think Corey Heim's going to take it on Friday night.
Aura. Is that how you use aura?
Yeah, he's got aura to him. He's like a guy. We talked about this with Tony. I asked Tony Bradinger, when she was on the show the other night, and I was like, we were talking about fashion, and I was like, I've known Corey for a long time, but like, he's more of a quiet guy where we've had conversation. He comes out of the shell, but I was like, what kind of guy is Corey? What kind of fashion is Corey rolling with, And she says just the team shirts, the team hats, but he's a good guy. But yes, I'd say Corey Heim has lots of aura. So,
all right.
Yeah,
wow.
He's my pick.
All right. For trucks, it's like conventional wisdom tells me to just pick Kyle Larson. Like, if you ask me to explain why it's not going to be Kyle Larson, I don't know that I could. So who am I supposed to say is going to outdo Kyle Larson at Bristol? It would take it. It's probably going to take something out of Kyle Larson's control for Kyle Larson to not win in trucks at Bristol. But things out of driver's control happen every week. It's you can be the best driver in the best car, and a lot still has to go right for you to win. A lot. So, I don't know. I kind of tend to agree with you. I think I'm also feeling Corey Heim on this one, but I'm going to feel stupid if Kyle Larson wins because it's so obvious, and yet my gut is just telling me Heim. But Heim has been that dude in trucks this year, so yeah.
I think I like it. I'm rolling with Corey Heim, and then let's go to Saturday where we also have Kyle Larson in the field. I think for me, there's a lot of good candidates here. You got Sheldon Creed, who's still looking for that first win. Allgaier, really good on short tracks, but damn, that 17 Xfinity car when Kyle Larson is in it is super, super good. And I skipped on him for trucks, but that just means he said Norm Bending. He's very strong in that Xfinity series car. And so this race, I have to pick Kyle Larson for Xfinity if I'm going with one guy.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's the same thing. Like, I can't give you a reason why it wouldn't be Kyle Larson. But I make my pick on my gut feeling. I'm almost never right. Yeah. But my gut says Sam Mayer.
Wow.
I don't know. I think he's good on short tracks.
Yeah, he's good.
And he's doing well with the Haas factory team this year. He's having good runs. Yeah. So I don't know. Just feel like Sam Mayer.
Yeah. All right. Well, Sam Mayer's a good pick.
It's hard to elaborate on gut, but that's what my gut tells me.
It is. It is hard to elaborate on gut. And now that leads us to the Cup Series, where this is always kind of like a gut thing because, like I said, any given Sunday, who's going to win? Give me Denny Hamlin to win 3 races in a row, taking this weekend at Bristol. Very good short track program. That's what my gut says, Chris. I think Denny Hamlin's getting 3 in a row this weekend at Bristol.
You're telling me Joe Gibbs Racing in the first 10 weeks of the year is going to win 3 straight races multiple times with 2 different drivers?
Yes, and then Penske's going to win the championship this year.
Death, taxes, and Penske out of nowhere.
Hell yeah. But yes, I got Denny Hamlin this weekend.
mean, it's hard to argue with that. You know, my existing picks are already. I mean, Corey Haim's a bit of a safe pick. Sam Mayer's moderate,
Yeah.
like not everyone's first pick, but also not that far
Yeah.
down the list. I am going to say, and I honestly hadn't given any thought to my picks before this very moment.
Me
So this is
either.
live me figuring this out. You know what? He's had so much success here in his career over the years, more so in the beginning, more so in the first half, but I don't doubt that the feel is still there. I am going to go out on a limb and say a big winless streak is coming to an end on Sunday. And your winner will be Kyle Busch.
Michael McDowell. Oh, okay.
No, McDowell's winless streak is not that long, right?
Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
terribly long.
yeah,
Just
he's won since
just
the
a
last
year
time
and a
Kyle won.
half. But yeah, I saw where you were going there. Kyle Busch at Bristol. That would be a crazy moment. I think honestly, of all tracks that he could pick to break that winless streak at, honestly, I'd have to say his top 3 would be Bristol. Obviously, home track in Vegas.
Yeah,
You could say Daytona 500. Obviously, he'd want to win, but I feel like Bristol's right
better
up.
Talladega too. Yeah.
Yeah, Talladega as well.
He actually, now that I think about it, he's won here more recently than I realized because of the dirt win where
Sure,
Briscoe
he won the
Tom
dirt
Reddick
race.
and they
Yeah,
took each
he
other
did
out.
win the
But
dirt race in 2022.
that was 2022.
It sure was.
Yes. Oh, that was a while ago, wasn't it?
Yep.
Doesn't feel that long ago.
I know. Yeah, 2022, he won that race because that was his last year with Joe Gibbs Racing.
Yes. So I'm going Haim, Mayer, Busch.
Awesome. Haim, Mayer, Busch. I'm going Haim, Larson, and Hamlin. So 2 Toyota victories for the weekend for me. But yeah, man, I would love to see that Kyle Busch win. I think whenever he does break that winless streak, which we hope does happen, I don't think he's going to go the rest of his Cup career, however long that is, without getting another victory.
Oh, yeah.
Come so close, so many times, but I think it would be just an incredible moment. I'm a man of the storylines. We talked about it in Daytona about what potential Daytona 500 winners we could have, and how I love a good storyline winner. Eric Estep was talking about how he loves a good storyline winner as well. We were talking about what it would mean for guys like Brad Kay, for guys like Kyle Larson. I was a little bit more of a Debbie Downer on William Byron when we talked about it, but after it settled in, I think it's honestly cool when I was talking about NASCAR building new stars and attaching a different name to the 24. William Byron winning 2 Daytona 500s in a row, I think is pretty sick. So after that settled in, I was a little bit more okay with it. Would have loved a Kyle Busch or Brad Kay win a little bit more, for the storylines, and I'm sure you would have too. But sometimes that's just not in the cards. Apparently, every year is what it seems. But yeah, I'm excited for Bristol. I think it's going to be a fun race. Hopefully, maybe we get our first really surprise winner of the year. I haven't really had any like surprise winners.
Josh
yet.
Berry.
Yeah, that is true. Josh Berry. Josh Berry was the surprise, a feel good story of the year. Honestly, I think that was an awesome win for him and that team. He was the guy that I pictured as the best when there was a list of who do you think is the best guy in a new situation. I'm pretty sure I'm on the record saying it on live too. In that press room at Daytona, I believe, and I think I knew Josh Berry and him and Wood Brothers is the best pairing. I think he can be there the rest of his career, honestly. They have the cars, that's what he's proving now is that the 21 was fast. It just, unfortunately, the driver did not click in that race car. And so now the driver is clicking in that race car because Josh Berry is a dog and he is showing it. So yes, we did have Josh Berry as that surprise feel good winner. You got me on that one. I missed that one. But it'd be cool to see another one. So let's see what we got this weekend at Bristol. But yeah, anything else? You got any expectations for Bristol? Tire wear?
Yeah, I expect tire wear. No, I think it's going to be a lot of it's going to come down to who can figure out what's happening with the tires the quickest during the race and who can build a strategy off of that and implement it the quickest. I think that's going to be the name of the game. And whatever team has the the crew chief on top of that box that can figure out and adapt is going to put themselves in a really, really good spot later in the race. That we saw Ryan Preece was the first driver to take the option tires at Phoenix. And you think like, oh, well, this is going to last for a second, and then he's going to parachute on back.
Yeah.
I recall, didn't he have a pretty darn good finish in Phoenix?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's something to be said for just figuring it out first before everyone else, and getting that head start on an informed tire strategy based off of actual experience within that race, within that day. And if you can win that sort of race, that race within a race, to understand what you're dealing with, then your odds of winning the race go up greatly. So it's going to be it's going to be a chess game on Sunday. But
yeah.
So yeah, that could lead to a pretty surprising winner, because at any given moment, someone might figure it out. Any given week, everyone who's up there on top of the box is a mastermind in some way or another. So, don't put it past like the Carson Hosevars of the field, or the Ricky Stenhouses that have shown some good stuff on short tracks, to just hit the right strategy and be off to the races.
Yeah, for sure. There's so many things that could happen, and that's why we love Bristol, man. That's why we love short track racing, because we'll get a snoozer here and there, but you know what? There's always that we tune back in because we love the sport, but also the unpredictability of the race. And hopefully we're gonna get some good viewership this weekend as usual. So it's gonna be a lot of fun watching to see what happens. It's been a fun start to the year. It's been fun to see all the things we've been able to develop here at Motor Stardom. I mean, the two guys you're looking at right here is the two-man crew. I don't know what you want to call us, like a LeBron D Wade, or like a
Shaq and
Luca LeBron type of thing. I don't know, but doing a lot of great things. A lot of things have been changing. It was a long yet short off season. It's going to be a long yet short year. It's all going to breeze by. Two guys working as hard as we can on this thing. Obviously me on the branding side, being able to turn this into Motor Stardom has been an absolutely dream come true. Doing a lot of things at the racetrack this year, show, developing that, just being able to do casual live streams like this is an absolute blessing. And having Chris in here, being the man behind the method to the madness of motorstardom.com. Somebody said MJ and Pippen. Yeah, I like that. Go Bulls. So the man behind all the writing that goes into motorstardom.com here, Chris Collins, has been a tremendous job to start this year. We're going to have so many more things to bring to you, to announce to you. And hopefully it's just going to be a tremendous year. As like I said, both of us got other stuff that goes on in our lives as well. I mean, I was supposed to be grand opening a Chick-fil-A in 7 days, but that got pushed back to May 1st. I cleared my whole April of no travel for racing, so I could commit to this Chick-fil-A grand opening, because that's at the end of the day what pays my bills. This doesn't. This does not yet at all.
Open on Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Chick-fil-A is a great gig, because I always got my Sundays and always got my weekends to dedicate to NASCAR. But that being said, going to be a fun year. Hopefully we'll be traveling some more places. We will. Obviously, I'm sure the world will see both of us at Daytona in August, as they always do. I'll be in Chicago in the summer. Looking forward to that. Probably the last Chicago street race, whether you like that fact or not. Probably going to be the last Chicago street race. They will take that thing and move it somewhere else. But we're going to enjoy it while it's there. And then we'll see where else the world takes me this year. So for that, I have been RJ Starsvik. This is Chris Gollin from Ask Flagler, News Daytona Beach, and playing in concerts on the occasion. Doing a great job. I always like to include that in. And we'll see you next time we go live, hopefully sooner. Definitely maybe some post-race stuff coming up, especially as we start to get into the summer. That's when the drama starts. That's when we get to talk about the fun stuff. So we'll see what happens. But